She was missing for 18 years. But she was never far away.
June 11th, 1991, South Lake Tahoe, California. A pink-clad 11-year-old girl walks up a gentle hill toward the bus stop. Her stepfather watches from the driveway. He turns away for just a moment. When he looks back, she's gone, vanished. Like smoke, in that split second, Jaycee Dugard disappeared into a nightmare that would last 18 years. 18 years. Think about that. She was 11. By the time she resurfaced, she was 29. A mother, twice over, and the world she returned to was unrecognizable. But here's what keeps me up at night. Her captor wasn't some shadowy figure from the woods. He was known, registered, monitored, a convicted sex offender living under supervision. And yet, somehow, he hid a child in his backyard for nearly 2 decades while parole officers walked past. How does that happen? Today, we're going deep into the Jaycee Dugard case. We'll trace the moments that shattered a family, examine the twisted mind of the man who stole her childhood, and expose the systematic failures that let this horror continue year after year after year. Because this isn't just about one monster, it's about the ones who looked away. And before we're done, you'll understand why some cases don't just haunt victims. They haunt entire systems. Let's begin. South Lake Tahoe. In 1991 felt like paradise. Mountain air, pine trees, a tight-knit community where people knew their neighbors. Kids walked to school, doors stayed unlocked. Jaycee Dugard was a typical 5th grader. Blonde, blue-eyed, loved cats, and swimming. Her mother, Terry Probin, worked hard to provide a good life. Her stepfather, Carl, adored Jaycee like his own. That morning started like any other. Breakfast, backpack, the routine walk to the bus stop. Less than 200 yards from home. Carl watched her go. He always did. But this time, a gray sedan appeared. It slowed beside Jaycee, a man and woman inside. The car stopped. Jaycee turned, confused. Then came the shock. A stun gun, 50,000 volts. She collapsed. They grabbed her, threw her in the back seat, covered her with a blanket. The entire abduction took less than 30 seconds. Carl saw the car, saw something wrong. He ran, sprinted up that hill faster than he'd ever moved. But the gray sedan was already accelerating, already gone. He stood there, gasping, helpless, as his stepdaughter disappeared into the California morning. Now imagine that moment, the absolute terror, the what-ifs that must have flooded his mind. And here's the cruelest part. He got the license plate. Partial, but he got it. The police had a description, they had a direction, they had a timeline measured in seconds. And yet, Jaycee Dugard would not be found for 18 years. So who takes a child in broad daylight from a residential street? Who plans that level of brazen violence? The answer is Phillip Garrido, born in 1951, raised in California, and already, by 1991, a monster with a documented history. Let me paint you the picture of this man, because understanding him is understanding how this nightmare unfolded. On the surface, Phillip seemed unremarkable. A little odd, sure. Scraggly hair, unkempt. He played guitar, talked about starting a church, spouted rambling philosophies about God and mind control. Neighbors thought he was weird, but harmless. The kind of guy you'd avoid at a party, but wouldn't call the cops on. Underneath, pure predator. In 1977, 14 years before he took Jaycee, Phillip Garrido kidnapped a 25-year-old woman named Katie Calloway. He and a friend grabbed her, drove her to a storage unit in Reno. and for hours, he raped and tortured her. She escaped. He was caught, convicted, federal kidnapping charges, plus Nevada state charges for rape. 50-year sentence. 50 years. Phillip Garrido should have died in prison, but here's where the system cracks. He served 11 years. 11, released in 1988 due to parole, labeled a sex offender, required to register, monitored by the state of California, and just 3 years later, he's cruising past a school bus stop with a stun gun. Let's pause here, because this is important. How does a man with that record, kidnapping, rape, torture, get released after 11 years? The answer is overcrowding, budget cuts, bureaucratic shuffling, the kind of systemic failure that doesn't make headlines until it's too late. And it gets worse. When Phillip was released, he moved in with his mother in Antioch, California, about 3 hours from South Lake Tahoe. He married a woman named Nancy Garrido. Nancy was younger, quiet, completely under his control. She became his accomplice, his enabler, the woman who helped him snatch Jaycee that June morning. Together, they brought Jaycee to their house on Walnut Avenue, a rundown property hidden behind tall fences, overgrown trees, tarps and tents. From the street, it looked like a hoarder's mess. From the inside, it was a prison. Phillip had constructed a series of sheds and tents in the backyard, soundproofed, hidden from view, and in one of those structures, he locked Jaycee Dugard, 11 years old, terrified, alone. For the first months, she was kept in a small shed, no windows, a bucket for a toilet. Phillip controlled everything. When she ate, when she slept, when she saw daylight, he raped her repeatedly, told her she was his now, that her family wasn't looking for her, that no one cared. Classic predator tactics. Isolate, dominate, destroy hope. But Jaycee didn't break, not completely, and that resilience would save her life. Now here's where the story twists in ways that still make investigators shake their heads. Jaycee wasn't hidden in some remote cabin. She was in Antioch, a suburb, kids playing next door, neighbors mowing lawns, and Phillip Garrido was on parole. That means parole officers were supposed to visit regularly, check his living situation, ensure compliance. They did visit. They came to the house. They saw the backyard, and somehow, for 18 years, they never found her. How? Let's break it down. Phillip was clever. He built the hidden structures deep in the backyard, fences within fences, tarps creating false walls. From the front of the house, you couldn't see the maze he'd created. Parole officers would knock. Phillip would answer. They'd chat in the living room or on the front porch. They'd mark their checkboxes and leave. They never searched the backyard thoroughly, never pushed past Phillip's explanations, never questioned why a convicted sex offender had a compound of tarps and sheds. Why? Because the system was overloaded. Too many parolees, too few officers, too little time, and Phillip knew it. He played the game, acted compliant, weird, but not threatening. He even brought Jaycee and her daughters, yes, daughters, we'll get there, to parole meetings, introduced them as his nieces. His parole officer saw them, saw Jaycee, a grown woman by then, pale and silent, and never asked the right questions. It's the kind of detail that keeps investigators up at night, and me too. Let's talk about those daughters, because this is where the horror deepens. In 1994, when Jaycee was just 14 years old, Phillip raped her, and she became pregnant. 14, a child herself. She gave birth in a backyard shed. No doctor, no hospital, just Nancy acting as midwife. The baby, a girl, survived. Jaycee named her A. 3 years later, another pregnancy, another birth, another daughter. Jaycee was now 17 and a mother of 2. living in a hidden prison, raising children who would never see the inside of a school, never visit a doctor, never legally exist. Phillip told her the babies were a gift, that they were a family now, that she could never leave, because the world would take her children away. More control, more manipulation. But here's the thing about Jaycee. She adapted. She had to. She became a mother, protected those girls, taught them to read using books Phillip and Nancy brought, created routines, birthdays, little joys in the nightmare. She gave them a childhood, even if hers had been stolen. And over time, Phillip loosened his grip, not out of kindness, out of confidence. He believed Jaycee would never run, that she was too broken, too dependent. He let her move around the property, let the girls play outside. Inside the hidden compound, he even started taking them out, to parks, to his printing business. Can you imagine? A captive and her children, born in secret, walking in public, and no one knew. By the mid-2000s, Phillip Garrido was evolving. His delusions were growing. He started calling himself a prophet, said he'd discovered a way to control sound with his mind. He wanted followers, wanted attention. In 2006, he walked onto the UC Berkeley campus and handed out religious pamphlets. Campus security noticed him. Something was off. They filed reports, contacted his parole officer. For a brief moment, the system was paying attention, but nothing came of it. No deep investigation, no search of his property, just a note in a file. Then, in August 2009, Phillip went back to UC Berkeley. This time, he wanted to hold a special event. He brought 2 young girls with him, Jaycee's daughters, now 11 and 15. He claimed they were his daughters, that he ran a church. Campus police were suspicious. The girls seemed scripted, robotic. They called Phillip's parole officer, demanded he come in for questioning. And finally, after 18 years, the thread started to unravel. On August 26, 2009, Phillip Garrido walked into a parole office in Concord, California. He brought Nancy. He brought Jaycee. He brought the girls. The parole officer asked questions. Who are these people? Where did they come from? Phillip's answers didn't add up. The officer separated them, talked to Jaycee alone, asked her name, and Jaycee, after 18 years of captivity, after being told 1,000 times no one cared, said something extraordinary. She told the truth. She said her name was Jaycee Dugard. The parole officer froze, because anyone in law enforcement in California knew that name. Jaycee Dugard, the girl on the missing posters, the cold case that haunted South Lake Tahoe, the unsolved mystery that had gone quiet years ago. She was right there, alive. The call went out. Police descended. Phillip and Nancy were arrested, and Jaycee, along with her daughters, was finally free. But freedom, after 18 years, isn't simple. It's not a Hollywood ending. It's trauma, confusion, a world that moved on without you. Let's rewind for a second, because while Jaycee was locked away, the world kept searching. At first, her mother, Terry, never gave up. She did interviews, kept Jaycee's case alive, refused to believe her daughter was dead. Carl, her stepfather, was haunted by that morning. The partial license plate led nowhere. The gray sedan was never found. Early suspects were questioned and cleared. Leads dried up. Months turned to years. By the late 90s, the case grew cold. Jaycee Dugard became a statistic, a name in a database, another missing child poster, fading on a bulletin board. But here's what few people knew. Jaycee was less than 200 miles away, close enough that her mother could have driven there. In 3 hours, hidden in plain sight behind Phillip Garrido's fences, and the system that was supposed to prevent this, parole supervision, sex offender monitoring, was asleep at the wheel. Between 1991 and 2009, Parole officers visited Phillip's home at least 60 times. 60. They saw the backyard. They noted the tarps. They even saw Jaycee and the girls on occasion, and they never connected the dots. In 2009, after Jaycee's rescue, a state investigation was launched. What they found was damning. Missed opportunities, ignored red flags, reports filed and forgotten. One parole officer had even been told by a neighbor in 2006 that Phillip had people living in his backyard. Children. The officer never followed up. The state of California would later apologize, pay Jaycee a settlement of $20 million, fire staff, reform policies, but no amount of money or apologies gives back 18 years. So let's talk about Phillip Garrido's mind, because understanding him is understanding how he did this. Phillip wasn't a criminal mastermind. He was delusional, grandiose. He believed he had a divine mission, that he was chosen. His writings, and there were dozens of rambling documents, talked about God, angels, and mind control technology. He thought he could hear voices, that he was developing a device to prove the existence of God. It's textbook narcissistic psychopathy mixed with schizotypal disorder. He needed control, needed worship. Jaycee wasn't just a victim. She was his creation, his possession, his proof of power, and Nancy, she enabled it all. Some ask why she didn't stop him, why she helped kidnap Jaycee, why she acted as jailer for 18 years. The psychology of accomplices is murky. Nancy was isolated, controlled by Phillip. She may have believed his delusions, or feared him, or simply lacked the moral courage to act. Whatever the reason, she was complicit, and when they were arrested, she didn't show remorse. Not at first. She claimed she was a victim too, that Phillip manipulated her, but the courts didn't buy it. She helped snatch an 11-year-old girl. She watched that girl become a mother in captivity. She kept the secret. That's not victimhood. That's collaboration. The trial didn't last long. The evidence was overwhelming. Jaycee's testimony, the daughter's DNA, the hidden compound documented and photographed. In 2011, Phillip Garrido pleaded guilty to kidnapping and rape. He was sentenced to 431 years to life. Nancy pleaded guilty as well. She got 36 years to life. Both are in California prisons. Both will die there. But the legal resolution didn't answer every question. For Jaycee, the hardest part was just beginning. Reintegration. She'd been taken at 11. She returned at 29, 18 years. She missed middle school, high school, first crushes, college, her 20s, everything. And she had 2 daughters who'd never been to school, never seen a doctor, never had birth certificates. The state of California provided support, therapy, education, privacy. Jaycee and her daughters were given new identities, moved to an undisclosed location. Slowly, they began to rebuild. In 2011, Jaycee did something remarkable. She wrote a memoir, A Stolen Life. In it, she detailed the abduction, the captivity, the abuse, but also the resilience, the small joys, the love she had for her daughters. It became a bestseller, not because people wanted to gawk at trauma, but because Jaycee's voice was powerful. She wasn't just a victim, she was a survivor, and she wanted the world to know that survival is possible. But let's not sugarcoat it. Jaycee's story is a triumph, yes, but it's also a tragedy. She lost 18 years. Her daughters grew up in a nightmare. Her mother spent 2 decades not knowing if her child was alive, and the system, the one designed to protect, failed catastrophically. After Jaycee's rescue, investigators dug deeper into Phillip Garrido's past. They wanted to know if there were other victims, other Jaycees. They found evidence that suggested yes. In the early 1990s, Around the time Jaycee was taken, there were unsolved disappearances in the region. Girls who vanished, cases that went cold. Investigators looked at Phillip for those crimes, but nothing conclusive emerged. No DNA matches, no confessions, just suspicion, and that's the lingering shadow. What if Jaycee wasn't the first? What if there were others who weren't as lucky? What if some of those cold cases have an answer that died with Phillip's secrets? We may never know. Here's another question that haunts this case. How many chances did the system have to save Jaycee? Let's count. 1977. Phillip is convicted of kidnapping and rape. Red flag. 1988. He's released after 11 years. Decision point. 1991. He's on parole when Jaycee is taken. The partial license plate didn't lead to him. Investigative miss. 1991 to 2009. 60 parole visits. 60 chances. 2006. A neighbor reports children in the backyard. Ignored. 2009. UC Berkeley campus police. Push for answers. Finally, action. That's at least 7 major opportunities where intervention could have happened. 7. And it took 18 years for the 7th to work. Why? Overloaded systems, undertrained staff, lack of coordination between agencies, bureaucratic inertia, and maybe, just maybe, a societal willingness to look away from uncomfortable truths. Because Phillip Garrido was weird, and sometimes we mistake weird for harmless. We don't want to pry, don't want to assume the worst, and predators know that. They count on it. Let's talk about Jaycee's mother, Terry, because her story is one of unrelenting hope. After Jaycee was taken, Terry's life became the search. She appeared on talk shows, worked with organizations for missing children, kept Jaycee's face in the public eye. She never accepted that Jaycee was gone. Even as years passed, and investigators quietly shifted the case to presumed dead, Terry refused. She felt it, a mother's instinct, that Jaycee was alive. When the call came in 2009 that Jaycee had been found, Terry collapsed. Relief, disbelief, joy, rage, all at once. The reunion was private, emotional, complicated, because Jaycee wasn't the little girl Terry had lost. She was a woman, a mother, with trauma that would take years to unpack, but they rebuilt their relationship, slowly, and today, they're close. Terry became an advocate. She pushed for parole reform, for better monitoring of sex offenders, for systemic accountability. She turned her pain into purpose. It's a common thread in these cases, survivors and families becoming the loudest voices for change because they've lived the failure. Now, let's examine the compound itself. After Jaycee's rescue, forensic teams descended on Walnut Avenue. What they found was chilling. The backyard was a labyrinth, tarps strung between trees, sheds hidden behind false walls, soundproofing in some structures. The main shed, where Jaycee had been held early on, was tiny, maybe 8 by 10 feet. No light, no ventilation, just a space where a child was locked away. Over the years, Phillip had expanded the compound, built more rooms, created a warped version of a home. There was a shed where Jaycee and the girls eventually lived. It had a bed, some furniture, books, almost normal, except it wasn't. They were still prisoners. Investigators found journals, writings by Phillip, photos, evidence of the 18 years. They also found something else. Jaycee's strength. She'd kept a diary, documented her thoughts, her daughter's milestones, first words, first steps, birthdays. In the midst of horror, she'd created a record of survival. Those journals are sealed, private, but their existence is a testament. Jaycee wasn't just enduring, she was living. as much as she could, and that resilience is why she's here today. The legal aftermath extended beyond Phillip and Nancy. The state of California faced intense scrutiny. How did this happen? Under their watch, investigations revealed that the parole system was broken. Officers carried caseloads of 70 to 90 parolees. They had minutes per visit, no time for thorough checks, no training on recognizing elaborate deceptions. Budget cuts had gutted resources, and there was no communication between agencies. Phillip's parole officer didn't know about the UC Berkeley complaints until campus police forced it. The system was siloed, reactive, instead of proactive. In response, California reformed its parole system, reduced caseloads, increased training, implemented GPS monitoring for high-risk offenders, improved interagency communication. Whether those reforms are enough remains debated, but they were born from Jaycee's case, from the recognition that 60 visits over 18 years and still missing a captive is unacceptable. And yet, even today, there are thousands of registered sex offenders in California, tens of thousands nationwide. Are we sure this couldn't happen again? Are we confident the system can catch the next Phillip Garrido before 18 years pass? That question keeps advocates up at night. Let's also talk about the public reaction. When Jaycee's story broke in 2009, it dominated headlines. A miracle, a survivor found after 18 years. But as details emerged, the daughters, the parole failures, the tone shifted. Outrage. How could this happen? The media dissected every angle. Phillip's past, Nancy's complicity, the parole system's collapse, Jaycee's resilience, and there was debate. Some questioned why Jaycee didn't escape, why she didn't run when Phillip took her out in public. It's a cruel, ignorant question, but it reflects a misunderstanding of captivity, of trauma, of what psychologists call learned helplessness. Jaycee was 11 when she was taken. For years she was told no one cared. That escape meant losing her daughters, that the world was dangerous. She was bonded to her captor through a twisted survival mechanism. And when she did finally speak up in that parole office, she did so at great personal risk. She's a hero, not for escaping earlier, but for surviving, for protecting her daughters, for finding the courage to say her name. The daughters, A and G, remain out of the public eye, and rightly so. They were born into captivity. Their early years were anything but normal, but Jaycee protected them, gave them love, education, a sense of safety, even in that hellish environment. After the rescue, they received therapy, schooling, a chance at normal life. Reports suggest they're doing well, adjusted, thriving even, which is a testament to Jaycee. She didn't just survive, she raised survivors. And that's perhaps the most powerful part of this story. The strength it takes to not let evil win, to build something good. In the darkest circumstances, the girls know their story. They know who their father is, and they have to live with that. But they also know their mother fought for them every single day. That kind of love doesn't erase trauma, but it sure as hell lights the way through it. There's another character in this story worth mentioning. The parole officer who finally acted, the one in 2009 who separated Phillip and Jaycee and asked the right questions. His name has been kept mostly private, but he's been called a hero, and maybe he is. He listened to his gut, didn't accept Phillip's lies, pushed. But let's be honest, he was doing his job, the job that should have been done 60 times before. He's not the hero. Jaycee is. The fact that we're praising him for basic competence says something about how low the bar had fallen. But credit where it's due. He saved Jaycee. He ended the nightmare. And for that, he deserves recognition. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Why do we care about cases like this? Why do millions of people watch videos, read books, listen to podcasts about Jaycee Dugard? Is it voyeurism, morbid curiosity, or something deeper? I think it's this. We're searching for answers. We want to believe that evil can be understood, stopped. We want to know that the system works, that justice exists. Cases like Jaycee's challenge that belief. They show us the cracks, the failures, the randomness of survival, and they force us to confront uncomfortable truths that sometimes the monsters are registered and monitored, that sometimes the system fails, that sometimes survival is sheer luck and willpower. And yet, stories like Jaycee's also offer hope because she survived, she rebuilt. She's not defined by what happened to her, but by how she responded. That's powerful. That's why we care. Let's bring this full circle. June 11th, 1991. A pink-clad girl vanishes. August 26th, 2009. She reappears 18 years and 77 days. That's 6,765 days. Phillip Garrido stole every single one of them. He stole Jaycee's childhood, her adolescence, her 20s. He stole normalcy, freedom, choice. But here's what he couldn't steal: her will, her love, her humanity. Jaycee Dugard walked out of that parole office with her daughters and faced a world she barely recognized. And she chose to live, not just survive, live. She wrote a book. She advocates for others. She built a life. That's not the ending Phillip Garrido imagined. He thought he owned her, controlled her, defined her. He was wrong. Jaycee defined herself, and in doing so, she became more than a victim. She became a symbol of resilience, of hope, of the truth that evil doesn't get the last word. But let's not end on a comfortable note, because comfort isn't earned yet. There are still questions, still shadows. Did Phillip Garrido have other victims? What happened to the girls who disappeared near South Lake Tahoe in the early 90s? Why did it take 60 parole visits to find Jaycee? How many other Phillip Garridos are out there right now, hiding horrors behind tarps and fences? How many systems are failing in real time? Those questions don't have easy answers. Maybe they don't have answers at all, but they demand we stay vigilant, that we don't look away, that we demand better from the systems designed to protect. Because every time we shrug off the weird neighbor, every time we cut budgets for parole officers, every time we assume someone else is watching, we risk another Jaycee Dugard, another 18 years, another stolen life. In the end, the Jaycee Dugard case is a mirror. It reflects our failures, our strengths, our capacity for evil and for endurance. Phillip Garrido will die in prison. Nancy too. The parole system has been reformed. Jaycee and her daughters are safe. Those are facts. But the haunting isn't in the facts. It's in the what-ifs. What if Carl had caught that car? What if the first parole officer had searched the backyard? What if the neighbor's report in 2006 had been investigated? What if Jaycee had never been found? Those what-ifs are the ghosts that linger, and they remind us that justice, when it comes, is often too late. That prevention is worth infinitely more than resolution, and that the price of looking away is measured in stolen years and shattered lives. So if this story left you haunted, good. It should. Jaycee Dugard's nightmare is over, but the system that failed her, that failed Katie Calloway before her, still exists. Reformed, yes, but perfect? Not even close. The next video will take us into another case, another failure, another fight for justice, because these stories matter, not for the shock, but for the accountability. Subscribe if you want to keep digging. Hit that bell if you want to chase the shadows with me. Let's make sure these names, Jaycee, Katie, and the countless others aren't forgotten. Let's make sure the system never gets to look away again, because if we stop watching, who will?